and welcome once again to another episode of Bill Has Opinions, where the opinions are made up and the beers don't matter. I'm Laura Lavoie, and I'm joined, of course, by Bill Perkins, who is literally sitting right next to me this time. It's crazy, crazy talk. But he has opinions because it's his show.
I do.
You do.
I mean, you probably have some too, though. To be fair,
I tend to.
It's kind of your show a little bit because, as we pointed out, like, I would just have my opinions and subject my friends to them if it wasn't for Laura. She was the one who decided they needed to be public.
Well, I have to say we are actually one episode away from our 50th episode because we started this a year ago as a COVID hobby because why not?
Right.
So also we do already have a viewer. Hi, viewer. We are testing, we're doing a different volume, or we're doing a different mic thing. So if you can hear us, tell us you can hear us. If you hear nothing, but comment below like you would normally on a Facebook.
Yeah.
We are also filmed in front of a live studio audience today. You can actually applaud. Roosters. Roosters. Okay. And he's about to get himself a beer. So, welcome to the show, one and all. So, Bill, how are you doing today?
I'm doing mostly okay. My allergies are killing me. I mean, well, not my sinuses, but my eyeballs are burning from something.
Yeah.
I was driving here after work, and my eyes were just killing me. And I don't know if you do this, but also when I got in my car this afternoon, it was 101 degrees in the car.
Oh yeah.
And so I turned the air wide open, and sometimes I'll do this, and then I'll forget to re-angle the vents. So they're blowing right in your eyeballs, and then you'll realize like 10 minutes later that your eyes are like dry as dust, and you're like, and you're like, what's wrong? And then these stupid vents are pointing. So I had that whole ordeal, and then I finally just decided to put on sunglasses too, and that would keep the wind out of my eyes, and also keep me from continuing to rub them because I didn't want to come in here and have like pink eye,
puffy. Puffy.
I was gonna like itch this eyeball to death on the way here. So.
I get that. Because I'm allergic to cats, right? Which is why I have fancy cats.
Right.
And one of my issues is when I pet cats and then forget to wash my hands and then rub my eyes. Yeah, and then just, it's bad. It's very bad. Very bad. But this episode is not about that. Before we get into what the episode is about, tell me what beer you're drinking.
I am currently drinking a Catawba Clear Ridge IPA, which is actually like the mildest of IPAs I think any beer company has ever made. It is. I mean, I would go so far as to say it's more of a, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like the hoppiness level is actually like, it's like one of the spicier lagers you've ever had is what it tastes like to me. Like it's barely an IPA. I don't really, I mean, like I taste the hops, but just, it's just a little crispness. It's, those brutes that were popular for a year or two?
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those almost, right? Like,
nice.
So anyway, that's what I'm doing now. Pre-gamed with Laura brought me some fancy beer from Georgia. So she actually mentioned this one a couple weeks ago, I think.
Oh yeah, I drank it on the show before.
Soul Asylum series from, who's this from?
Three Taverns.
Three Taverns. And it's the Cream Weaver. So it was a tangerine vanilla sour. I didn't see the sour part until I started drinking it, and then I was like, "Whoa, this is a lot more tart than I expected for a creamsicle flavored beer." But it was good. So there. What are you drinking?
Well, what I've got right now, and I would hold it right up to the camera, but the camera is all the way over there, and I'm not used to that. But this is a Moon Rambler IPA from Founders. It is their current seasonal beer. I suppose it's named after the fact that we have rovers on all kinds of orbiting objects. And it is a India Pale Ale brewed with milk sugar. So it's like a milkshake IPA. It's really, really tasty. I like it very much.
Cool.
You can have one. I have more.
I might try it later. We'll see.
I brought a bunch of beer. We couldn't have Bill doing these shows sober anymore. That was just...
It was... those were a couple of lousy shows. That's why I had the one beer.
You did fine, but we are definitely funnier when we're drunk.
Right.
So,
and we're funnier when you're drunk.
that is also true. So get yourself a beer and join us. And Bill has opinions. So what we are talking about today, though, because normally in normal times, pre-COVID times, this week would be tax day. So we are talking all about taxes and kind of whatever comes to mind about that. So Bill, give us your monologue, if you will.
Well, let me tell you how it will be. That's 1 for you, 19 for me, because I'm the tax man. Yeah, I'm the tax man, baby. No, taxes. You know what's funny? What's funny is my Shatner version of the Beatles. But funny is when I was younger, I was a lot more conservative when I was like just started working, I guess. And I will say this happens, I think, to everybody. It's a big shock. You go and you're told you're making X number of dollars an hour, and you go work. And of course, your first job also, I'll say, like, your first job, you're probably busting your butt. It's usually a tough job, especially coming from having not worked. You're doing, a menial position, and you're busting your hump, and then at the end of the week, you're finally looking forward to that paycheck, and you get it, and you see a mighty portion of it has been shaved off for this and that.
Right.
Now, to be fair, you don't owe any of that because you're a dependent, and you will get it all back at the end of the year. It's basically a Santa Saver program for you. But anyway, like I said, when I was younger, I was a lot more conservative, and that really bummed me out, the whole amount of my paycheck that went to taxes. And I used to get very ill about it. And I actually went through a brief period where I flirted with that whole idea of, sales tax is enough tax, or what,
Right. The Neil Bort's fair tax program.
The fair tax, yes.
Yes.
But as I've gotten older and I've read a lot more about it, I don't believe that any longer. And also, I've had a realization about the kinds of things I was told were waste, government waste, useless spending. The kinds of things I was told were useless spending. I got on board. I voted Republican for several years. Several years I did voted Republican in my 20s. And I finally was like, hey, these guys keep telling me they're fiscally conservative, but they're only fiscally conservative in regards to certain things.
Right.
Like when someone sticks out their hand and says we want a new aircraft carrier, they never go, hey, justify that. They never say, well, we got aircraft carriers at home.
Right, exactly. We already have one.
Yeah. Like, we don't need no new aircraft carriers. Why don't you wear out the ones we got first?
Then once you're done with that one, we'll talk about getting a new one.
Right, but they don't do that. They just go, sure, sign us up. More bombs. Why not? So I came to that realization during the George W. Bush era that I was like, this is a bunch of nonsense. Like they're not trying to save money. They just spend it on different things. And honestly, that was my only objection to social programs, was the spending of money. It wasn't the ideals behind the social programs. I'm all for helping people. I just was like, let's not waste a bunch of money on it. But then once I realized, well, we're going to waste a bunch of money anyway, I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's just, it seems like to me, the government considers these numbers as just being numbers on paper. Like, this is all bullshit. Like, the deficit, we're never going to pay that off. Whatever, the national debt, who do we owe that to? Another planet? Like, every country on Earth is in debt to something. Like, who the hell do they owe? Right? Like, so this is horseshit. I don't care. Spend. I obviously keep my tax rate in the margin where I can still pay my bills, and other than that, I don't really care. No. That's where I'm at. That's my spiel on taxes.
Well, damn, I think show over, right? Like we have reached the end of what we have to say about that. No, but first of all, kudos. This is literally, it took us a year, but this is the most political show we've ever done.
That's true.
That we've gone down that road. But no, I'm with you. And I think a lot of us get into that kind of conservative mindset at first. And then, I mean, some people go the opposite way, though. Some people start out very liberal and then become super conservative as they age. But, but I can tell you from my experience, I used to, as a former recruiter, so I did a lot of temporary employment. Taxes seem to be a shock to people every time they start a job. Like, it doesn't matter when, like, I would have a temporary employee start a job and then they would get their first paycheck and come into me and ask me what all of these things were listed on their paycheck. And one in particular was the OSAID. OSAID. Yes, that is correct. I wrote it down so I'd remember it, because people are like, what is it? What does it mean? I can tell you what it means because I had to tell a lot of people what it means. It's the old age. Oh crap. I used to know what it means.
You didn't write down what it meant.
I did not. I should have. It's old age something insurance. Either way, it's Social Security is what it is. And nobody, they come in there like, why do I have to pay this? I'm like, it's Social Security. You're paying it so that someday you don't have to work anymore.
And this is a funny thing that I think back when I was irritated about taxes, actually Social Security was one of the ones that used to rub me the wrong way because, well, you know, because we were told a lot, especially when I was in my 20s, I was told like Social Security is going away. Like you're never gonna reap the benefits of it, right?
Right.
And they float this every so often, you know, like hey, we should just do away with it. We should just do away. Well, when I was in my 20s, I was all for it. Yeah, do away with it. Well, now I've been working for 20-something years. I've been paying into it for 20-something years. So now when somebody talks about doing away with it, I'm like, oh, hell no. I paid into that.
Get my money.
It's my money and I want it now. Right. So the closer I get to retirement age, the less enthused I am about getting rid of Social Security as a program. And I've also seen like if you've seen your parents, like, you know, have to live off of it, you realize like this, it served a purpose. Like there's a reason that FDR started this program. And also, I mean, like, so here's the thing that those people who are fussing about it probably don't get. And a lot of people don't understand this, but if you don't work, you don't collect Social Security, except for like a few weird caveats, but you know, like disability or something like that. But outside of that, like if you're a bum and you don't do a damn thing your entire life, you don't turn 65 and collect Social Security. It doesn't happen. They don't just give it to every 65-year-old. It is what you paid in that you get out. So
I paid for it.
Exactly. I paid for it and I want it back.
I want it back. And yes, we've got, yes, it's a vested interest. Indeed it is. As you can see, I've got my computer on my lap because I am producing the show while I guess Bill is our cameraman today. He's not just talent, he's also our cameraman.
Right.
So that's what we're doing.
You know, I want to get back up for just a second. You said that was the most political we've ever gotten. That's probably the closest thing to one of my real drunken rants I've ever done on the show. Awesome.
Well, fantastic. I'm glad we could be of service. All right. Well, since we are 15 minutes into the show and we're going to transition to talking about other DEX stuff, I suppose we should probably do a shout out to someone, right?
Yeah.
Also, Matt requests more rants, and he's literally sitting in the same room with us. So there should be more rants. But today we would like to, and I'm going to pop this up here, but then I'm actually going to go show you something else for viewers. Welcome to the show, everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit about Geek Orthodox, and we want you to all go to geekorthodox.com and buy their stuff. But specifically, I'm going to leave this up for a second also because I really love that stained glass of my cats. So I want everybody to look at it all the time. But I am going to show you something in a second here. So let me actually, this is a high skill maneuver I only recently learned that I'm going to share a screen. And yeah, I know this is new and interesting stuff. So I'm going to go to the Chrome tab and I am going to share this screen right here. Bam!
Getting fancy. Woo!
We're getting fancy. So Geek Orthodox is the parent company of Geek Orthodox is Ian Leno. He is a designer and he sells t-shirts and things at conventions and online. And he just released this brand new design be vaxxed to the future. And we wanted to make sure that everybody saw it, and you should go online and you should buy it if you're getting vaccinated, or even if you're not, just buy it.
Yeah, buy it. Wear it ironically if you're anti-vax.
That's a thing you can do.
I mean, you know, we are Gen X. Wearing ironic T-shirts is a thing.
It's actually kind of that we invented that.
Yes,
100%. Yeah.
I got a funny story about how I think I actually came up with that.
Did you? Well, let's get to that in a second.
All right.
Because we should. But also, so ianlino.com, buy this T-shirt. It will be good times for everyone.
Yeah.
So we would like you to do that. And now I have to go back here, and now I got to take me back up.
A mask in a restaurant because
but we're vaxxed to the future now, people.
Yeah,
that's what we are.
I don't need no stinking masks. No, speaking of, I actually got my second shot last week.
Woo!
So, you know,
both of us, Matt and I, Matt sitting over there, we go on Wednesday to get our second shot. So we will be fully vaccinated. But
did you check the comments?
Did I check the comments? I did not. Sorry. That's the problem when we have a live studio audience that we had to watch for his leg. Apparently, there it was. There was the leg.
Okay. That was the lag when we showed the comment after the fact.
Exactly. Watch for my lag too. All right, because before we get back to taxes, I actually need to hear your thing. But considering that this has nothing to do with taxes, I think.
Well, I pay tax on this shirt.
All right. Well,
to be fair.
Fair enough. But
okay.
All right, how did you invent the ironic T-shirt?
All right, so the year was 1992. I was going away to art school in Chicago. I was flipping through a, what was it called? A TNN catalog. That was the Nashville network.
Right.
Back in the day. I think it's changed names 4 times since then.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
At the time, it was a country version of MTV, essentially, although it had some cutesy country shows also. It was, well, I mean, I guess MTV was mostly shows at this point also. So it was, it would show music videos for country artists, but it would also have a bunch of country-related TV shows. Anyway, I'm flipping through the TNN catalog, and there's a bright yellow hee-haw T-shirt for sale. And I had to have it. I bought this shirt because I wanted to wear it to art school, and it turns out it was a good thing because like when you're an artsy kid in high school, you probably like goth or punk or something, and that stands out at your high school. But then you go to art school and it's a bunch of punk goth kids, right? It's all it is. So I kind of was like I think I was already like feeling like I'm gonna get a new gimmick because I know when I get to art school like this isn't gonna cut it, So I got this bright yellow hee-haw T-shirt. Had the donkey, and it said hee-haw real big on it. And I wear it to school just to enjoy the sneers of the punk and goth kids, who look divisively at my hee-haw T-shirt.
Sure.
And so that's what I did. And then I would say about maybe 2 to 3 years goes by. And then I go into there was a store at the mall called Gadzooks. Do you remember Gadzooks?
I vaguely remember
and that's
it,
when I started seeing all these like nostalgic, like double bubble shirts and shit like that, and people were buying these things like for stuff that you might not even care about, but you bought it to go, look at me, I'm wearing this crazy thing, and so I was like, hey, that's just like that time I bought that hee-haw shirt, so that's why I think I invented the ironic T-shirt.
Well done. Cheers to you, sir. The aforementioned Ian Lino has a design. I don't know if he currently sells it, but he used to. That was a yellow shirt with like a retro looking car on it that just said ironic T-shirt. And I actually bought it for my youngest nephew who, was born in the 90s. And he didn't get it. Like, I bought it for him because he was going into college, and I'm like,
you
yeah, this is a funny thing you could wear.
ironically.
Yeah, but he didn't get it.
So this is, I think, today's kids. We're still on the detour, by the way. Today's kids, as I understand it, are now wearing the shirt both ironically and unironically at the same time. So, for instance, my son, I got him a Waffle House T-shirt for Christmas, which he enjoys, and it is both ironic and unironic at the same time. You see, it's like Schrodinger's ironic T-shirt because on one hand he does like Waffle House, and he's not anti Waffle House,
right?
But on the other hand, it's kind of a silly shirt. It's kind of a silly thing to go around repping,
right?
So he is sort of wearing it ironically, but also sort of not. He also, while I'm still on this tangent, he also listens to Weezer both ironically and unironically.
All right, fair enough.
So that's how the Gen Z kids are.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's exactly how the world works.
Right.
Like, that's just everything old is new again, and then all this has happened before, all this will happen again.
So and they'll complain about taxes.
All right, so we've got a short, brief history of taxes, at least in the U.S., right? Because obviously taxes have been happening.
That's right. Yeah, I believe you were supposed to give unto Caesar that which was Caesar's.
Correct, which apparently meant everything. So Caesar owns you,
right?
So you just give him all the things,
right?
Yes. Right. So we don't have to go into depth, but obviously most of our viewers, all of you viewer, should know that in the U.S., right, taxes. There was the whole Boston Tea Party situation, right?
Okay.
You threw a bunch of tea into the bay, and
you wasted tea.
Yeah, because you didn't want to pay taxes on it.
Okay.
So imagine we do that now. Like, what if we didn't want to pay taxes on something? Should we just destroy it?
Yeah, I mean, well, people do that in a sense. It's like the thing where you some company that you own a thing by comes out politically misaligned with your ideals, and you go destroy all the things you already paid for. Yeah,
no, that's always been a fun one to me.
And then you look like a complete idiot because you already bought that stuff.
Exactly.
You're not hurting that company.
My particular favorite one was when the French government didn't support one of the various wars that we've started. And people were they were calling, they were freedom fries and all that, the whole thing. But people were dumping out French wine that they bought. I'm like, you bought $100 worth of wine and now you're dumping it into the streets? Joke's on you. Yeah. France got the money.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd have been like, I'm dumping it out.
So, of course, the Boston Tea Party and then a variety of other things started.
The Boston Tea Party, do you think that I mean, of course, they hadn't actually bought this tea. It was on the boat still. So this is the Boston Tea Party is exactly the kind of thing where nowadays they would blame it on Antifa. I guess it was Antifa back then. But I'm just saying, it's funny because nowadays there's a certain group of people who property damage is more important than whatever social injustice is being done.
Right.
And they would make a bigger deal about the loss of tea than they would have about the thing that they were fussing about, which was taxation without representation at the time, I believe.
Right. Yes. Which, of course, then led to the Revolutionary War. Because as a British colony, we didn't have representation in Parliament. So how could we be taxed if we weren't represented? And then suddenly we're an independent nation, and then we started taxing people.
Right.
So
but it was okay because we had representation, and
we had our own we invented representation at that point.
Sure. Yeah. We was like, hey, and then they were like, okay, you guys want to be taxed, and people were like, well, yeah, as long as I'm being represented, it's fine.
Well, fun fact.
It wasn't really, though.
That's true.
That's what she's getting to, I believe.
That's true. Well, fun fact, the first income tax for American people was to pay for the Civil War. So they started taxing our income specifically to pay for the Civil War.
Were they used during the Civil War or afterwards?
Afterwards.
Oh, so it was. Did they tax the South more since it was really their fault? That would have made sense to me.
That would.
I mean, because they did that in Germany. After World War I. I don't think they did it so much after World War II because they realized that was one of the causes of World War II was draconian penalties for starting World War One. But
right, as it turns out. No, I don't know that they did, and I didn't go in depth enough. Literally, the amount of my history is 3 lines of the Boston Tea Party, the Revolutionary War, and the first income tax.
Okay.
Those are my historical notes.
Well, there was so after the Boston Tea Party and the Revolution, but before the Civil War, as I recall, there was another tax thing once. They started taxing whiskey, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then, so it was honestly one of our first things once we became a country was then we turned around and our armed forces went out and had to put down another rebellion because Americans were like, I'm not paying any taxes. They're like, oh, the hell you are. These are not British taxes, sir. These are American taxes, and you will pay them or else.
It is patriotic to do so.
Right.
So
there you go.
So then, of course, we have categories of taxes, right?
Sure, yeah.
So sales tax,
Mm-hmm.
which I remember being a bigger deal to me when I was younger than I literally don't care anymore. The price of something is just the price of something.
Yeah.
I don't care what the tax is. I just pay it.
I have, and it depends on where you live.
Mm-hmm.
So, because in the southern states, we mostly have a flat sales tax, right? It's just, it's whatever, like between 3% and 7% or something. It's some low rate.
Right.
And it's across the board on everything. The only exception probably being alcohol or gasoline, right?
Right. And that's a different because in alcohol, especially in North Carolina, is state regulated. So you can only buy it through state stores.
Right.
So they deal with their own tax situation. Like the price is the price and they get all of it.
Yes.
And then, or all of it except for the manufacturing, except for the buying of the product. And then gas tax is completely separate.
Okay. So we'll come back around to gas taxes. I see gas taxes. I mean, I know they call it highway tax, but it's kind of a sales tax because you're buying a thing that you're like it's a thing you're buying every week, right?
Right.
And
unless you don't drive, in
which case you're not buying. In which case you're also not using the highways, which is what it's supposed to pay for.
Right. Correct.
So that's, I guess, what makes it different than a sales tax is it's earmarked for a particular thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So this is actually another. So all right. So back to sales taxes. I think it was a bigger deal when I was growing up because, I got beer all over my computer. Good job, me. Well done. Nice new computer, splattered beer. I just opened something. We don't
open things.
I did. I opened
that beer.
I did not mean to open something, but I did. No, it's fine. I do not need assistance. Thank you, studio audience. All right, I'm getting assistance. Thank you for giving me
I'm going to try the Moon Rambler IPA, even though I don't IPA. Check out that leg.
Yeah, give it a try. I think you might like it. It's surprisingly mild, especially since you've already had an IPA.
Yeah.
Like your palate is prepared. So.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to say something real quick too about sales tax because I was trying to get it. So we have a flat, very low rate in the South. Up north, you have like a graduated rate. When I was living in Chicago for art school, you go to the grocery store, and after you got you went to go pay your grocery bill, you would have 3 different tax rates on your grocery bill. Because certain items were taxed, like if it was a staple, say like you bought rice or, beans or something like that, that would be at like 4%, right? That was like their lowest rate because that's just, you need that to live. You got to have beans and rice. And then you bought like toiletries, you bought soap and shampoo. That might be at like, at 5% because that was like, well, that's not, I have to have it to live. And then if you bought, what they call pop, but we call Coke. If you bought that would be like 7 or 8%. That was a luxury item. And so, yeah, that used to really hit hard. Like if I especially made me mad. This is the thing. It didn't make me mad to pay the tax, but it did make me mad if I went and bought several cans of pop and put them in the refrigerator, and then my roommate came home and drank them because I was like, that costs money. And sometimes he would hand me the money he'd be like, oh, here's the money for it. And I'll be like, okay, yeah, well, that's part of it. The other thing I'm mad about is I had to lug those cans 4 blocks from the grocery store to the apartment.
Which is a different issue altogether.
You can't give that back.
You cannot. No, and so if I remember correctly, and Matt being here, you may be able to chime in if we remember, because we have not lived in Michigan for a very long time. But I seem to remember that sales tax in Michigan was very much, it was a 6% tax, if I recall correctly, most of the time I was growing up. Started out 4, and that might be why I remember, because it was a big deal when it turned into 6%. People lost their minds. Yeah. But if I recall correctly, there were certain things that weren't taxed, including food.
All groceries that weren't considered luxury groceries, like if it wasn't prepared, like specific prepared foods and things. Yeah.
All right. So if, in case nobody heard, I don't know if he's in Mike's shot. If he is, great. But yes, groceries, unless it was a luxury item, were not, thank you, were not taxed. So I remember that. But then what we had, it was not a tax, because is that for a can of beer, for instance, you paid 10 cents for the luxury of buying a beer to be able to return it. And then you got that 10 cents back.
Oh yeah, because we had one of the few states you can return cans and bottles and get money.
And one of the very few states where it was 10 cents. Like most states is 5 cents.
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah. That's why when I go up there to see my friend Jay, I'm taking several cans several bags of bottles and cans with me.
So you can make money. Very few Seinfeld episodes I've actually watched, Yeah. I was not a big fan, so.
Yeah, it was. So it seems like a cool racket, though. I like the idea, because the only way you can make money down here with bottles and cans is you got to take them to the recycle center, and it's only when the price of aluminum actually skyrockets. It's not worth your time and effort, like most of the time, and then every couple years, aluminum gets valuable for a minute. And that's when you got to go take them.
Right.
And you make crazy bank for a minute.
Right. All right. So I do want to mention, and this was something I didn't know about, and maybe I just didn't know about it, but until I moved to Georgia. And when I moved to Georgia, this became like, it was the thing that everybody talked about. And I was so fascinated by it. They were SPLOST and tsPLOST. Those were special taxes, and everybody referred to them as SPLOST or tsPLOST. So you heard that on the news every day, like the SPLOST has passed in Marietta, and you're like, the fuck is a SPLOST? I know what it is now. It is a special purpose local option sales tax. So that means Marietta decides that they want to fund something.
Oh, they put an extra 1%.
They put an extra 1%, and then tsPLOST specifically is related to transportation. So if your special purpose local option sales tax goes to transportation, that's a tsPLOST.
Oh, and then so that basically tells you that it's earmarked for this, so you kind of know what you're paying for.
So you do know what you're paying for.
And I gotta say this: I think people, to some degree, are a little bit more in favor of those kinds. Like if it's an earmark tax and they know what it's going to, they don't get as riled up as they do about.
Well,
generic, like we're just going to spend on whatever the hell, right?
I need to point out this moment in history. We just taught Heather Biederman something.
Oh, yeah.
We totally just taught her something because she did not know what a SPLOST was. And the only place I've ever heard of it is in Georgia. We don't talk about it in North Carolina. It was not a thing in Michigan. But Georgia, man, they loved their SPLOST.
Do we even have local taxes here? Can a municipality in North Carolina tack a extra 1 cent onto a sales tax?
That's been an interesting debate because we're told that they cannot, that everything comes from Raleigh, which is, our capital, and Raleigh has to make all those decisions. And then they're the ones that also decide how to spend it. But we have learned over the last few years that has not always been the case. So people have been selling as a bill of goods for a while. So like, for instance, in Asheville, which is, a tourist city, our biggest.
Oh, that's right. Because they have an earmarked hotel motel tax thing there.
The whatever tourism tax they call it, hotel tax. And we have been told all along that tax was strictly, it went to the state and the state determined how to spend it. But we have since learned that is not true. And our tourism board actually has a large amount of influence on how that's spent, and how they've spent it is spending more money on advertising for tourism. So
see.
hooray!
I guess that's a benefit to everybody.
Yeah, this is great. We love the taxes. Thank you for all the taxes. So, of course, that brings us to income tax, which is what most of us are dealing with now. Have you already paid your taxes?
I think so. So here's the thing. My wife runs a business, so she's a small business owner, which means she's got an accountant now.
Yes.
And therefore, it's really out of my hands, and I don't really care.
You just give all your documentation over.
I send her the PDFs as they come into my inbox. I say, here's my thing for, here's my thing for the mortgage, here's my thing for work, here's my thing for that other thing, whatever shit comes up, here's the thing from the previous place I worked where they cashed out my 401k because I was only there a year and it was just not worth it to roll it over, and and so I send her all those things, and she passes them on to her accountant. And
we do have longer this year, which I would have waited to do the taxes episode, but by the time it got announced, I already had the schedule made, so I did not want to wait. Plus, doing a taxes episode in May feels wrong.
Yeah.
Because tax day is the 15th of April.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
We got May shit to do in May.
Yeah, no, exactly. But so my father was an accountant. So
you didn't see him for the month of April.
No, not at all. But he also did my taxes for free, even after I moved to Georgia.
Right.
I would literally just send him everything, and then
he had to familiarize himself with the Georgia.
He did. Taxes. He absolutely did. But what was adorable about it, because my father was a very so I would get. He was old school, so you didn't e-sign anything. You had to physically sign everything. And I lived in Georgia, so he would physically mail me all of the documents to sign, and with a formal letter about what I was about to pay,
right.
like he would do for his clients.
Oh wow! And then he put the little flags.
Yep, absolutely. It always had the little flags. So I'd sign it and I'd send it back to him, and then he would file it. He's old school. I mean, he died last year at 85 years old. So, he was not a young man when he was doing my taxes, even when I was in Georgia. So of course, after he died, then I needed to worry about figuring it out. So I have an accountant because I have my own business now too.
Right.
So I have to pay quarterly taxes. Piece of advice, internet land, if you have your own business, have an accountant. It makes all the difference. Do not do that. You can figure out your quarterly taxes. You can do it if you want to, but the best investment you could ever make is getting an accountant.
Dude, and I'll tell you this, even when I was a person who worked for the man, which I still am, but, didn't have any kind of relationship with small business. So for years, when I was younger, my ex-wife liked to do our taxes, and she was a procrastinator. She would put it off. I would be hounding her the morning of the 15th of April. I would be like, are you filing our taxes today? She'd be like, yeah, dude, just get off my case. And I'd be like, I'm on your case because they are due. You said you were going to do them, and I'm just like, so anyway, the year we split up, let me tell you this. So every year while we were married, every year we wrote a check for like $200 to $400. And I was always like, and this is back when I was conservative, and this is probably why. Because I was always paying taxes all year, and then at the end of the year, I was writing a damn check, right? And I was like, oh my God, why do we have to write a check all the time? Why are we always paying out? Turns out my ex-wife was really bad at taxes. So the year we were separated, I was living in the house that we had cohabitated in. She had moved out, and her tax information, all her tax forms stuff, and all my tax stuff all came to our house. I gathered it all up, and I took it to H&R Block. And now I'm going to tell you this: H&R Block. I'm not recommending them as accountants, nor am I not recommending them either. I'm just saying, buyer beware. I went to H&R Block, and they. I felt like they kind of played fast and loose with some of the deductions and things. But H&R Block for an extra like $25 on your bill promises to represent you in your audit. So
Right.
I was like, make it so. They got me $8,000 back that year.
Nice.
So I got so much money back, I quit my job. That's where I was at. I was on the fence about quitting my job for a couple of years, and then when I got an $8,000 tax return, I was like, you know what? That's like, that's like a quarter of the year of pay. Like, fuck it, yeah, I'm out of here.
So I want to address. So Heather brings up a very good point, and she's 100% right. But I just want to address it real quick. So the trick is not to get money back and not to pay. Getting money means the government took too much of your money. So, but here's the thing. I am very bad with the math. I don't want it. I get it. I understand that I am paying too much to the government, but I want the government to take everything and then give it back to me because I don't want to deal with that.
Because you don't have, in April, you don't have, I mean, you have some money. Like writing a $400 check obviously didn't kill me.
Right.
But at the same time, I didn't want to have more money going out. Now, it would kill me if they came around and said at the end of the year, every year, if they were like, stick them up for $4,000 or something, I'd be like, who can do this? Like, right. I already paid you. It would make me crazy. So, and then I've had living in North Carolina, I don't know if you've had this situation happen, but I've had the situation where I got money back from Fed and turned around and handed it back.
Yeah, I've done that.
To North Carolina, because North Carolina can wipe out whatever your return is pretty quickly. So anyway, that's been an experience. But I'm with her. I'd rather it's not about the earning interest for them for the last year.
I get it.
I understand that, but it's important to me at the end of the year not to have to write a fucking check to somebody. That's where I'm at. Like,
well, especially being self-employed.
Yeah.
Because I pay all my own employment taxes. So I'm paying quarterly taxes, whether I want to or not. I'm paying money. And then, but when if I can get a refund when I'm paying my own taxes, all of it, then I'm overjoyed.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I actually did get a refund this year. I actually have to go sign the paperwork tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So super fun times.
That's because you're not living in North Carolina this year.
That's true. That's absolutely true. But I still use my North Carolina accountant because he's awesome. But I got money back this year. But because I'm self-employed, I pay all of that money back to my quarterly taxes.
Okay.
I don't even see it. I'm like, no, right. Just apply it to my quarterly taxes. Because now I don't have to worry about my quarterly taxes for April, possibly, or June. So, look at you. You're looking at the
I wanted to see what else we had on here. I wanted to make sure we got the things. We got no accountants, okay?
Yeah,
okay, you're going to talk about forms. Very well.
Oh, this is part of it because, right, so you get paid, and I used to, but you get paid on a W-2.
Right.
Right, because you're a traditional employee. That means all of your taxes are taken out prior to tax time. Mm-hmm. I am an independent contractor, so I get paid via 1099. I mean, I get paid via money, but my clients send me 1099s to prove that they paid me, and then I have to then report all that. So that's what the difference is, where your employment tax is paid by your employer.
Right.
You handle all that. They handle all that. But my employment tax is paid by me. Yeah. So I get to do that all by myself, and it's super fun. But I did actually way back, Heather mentioned the 1040 Easy on the telephone. When I worked in staffing, I was the backup for our accountant, which, by the way, not a good idea. Don't make me do that. Bad idea. I'm very, very bad at it.
She did not guarantee representing you at your audit.
But so I would run our payroll when she was out of the office. Luckily, it was very procedure oriented, and I am very procedural. So all she had to do was leave me like a list of tasks, and I did it. And usually I did it well. Every once in a while I fucked up, but not very often. But part of that, because the business that we ran had to pay quarterly taxes. So I would have to report it. So I'd have to dial a number on the internet. and dial a number and call it up and report the taxes for the month. Like, and you did it like you enter the number, enter your amount of taxes, boop, 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 boop. And it was totally ridiculous. Like, what a stupid process.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we do that online? I mean, that wasn't even that long ago. I worked at that company from 2004 to 2012.
Yeah. Well, after the internet had been invented.
Well after. Well after.
You know, I have this problem with anything I have to go pay a bill for, and they want me to write a fucking check, put it in the mail, and I'm like, why don't you have a website, some sort of portal I can just go log into and take care of this baloney?
Exactly. Exactly.
Because I really hate having to interact with people or I mean, in writing a check, man, does anything make you feel like a boomer more than writing a check?
Yeah. No, I try to avoid like, I actually had this conversation with my mother recently because when we're on Zooms with her, she tells us the same stories over and over again. I love you, Mom. If you're watching,
grocery store.
One of them is writing checks, and then she asked, "I love you, Mom. You're probably not watching because I think you think our show is boring." But yeah, it was all about writing checks, and I'm like, I have not written a check since before 2012. Like, I have not physically written a check for it.
Oh wow! Okay.
I only recently acquired a checkbook again because I had some issues with a couple checks getting lost in the mail that I had sent through my bank. So I wanted a checkbook just in case. But I don't do that shit. No,
I have like two. I have two that I still have to. One of them, in all fairness, is my garbage collector, which is a local company and probably very
Fair
mom
enough.
and pop, And the other one, what is it? Oh, I used to write a check to my ex, and I could have handled it a different way, but I felt that paying my child support by check was easier because then I had a record. I'd write a check and it would get cleared, and then it would be in all that anyway.
Right. So I just have to make a comment on Al, your comment here. Again, we normally don't get political, but here's the thing, internet. If you're going to pay for human trafficking, just 100%. Like,
use cash. Cash is the most untraceable thing. Nobody can trace that shit.
Like, first of all, so Venmo, I think Venmo is kind of ridiculous anyway. I use it for a couple of things, but it is social money trading. Like, so if you don't make sure your post is private, everybody on Venmo can see it.
Venmoed?
Yeah, they can. Well, sometimes it's public. Completely public.
So I don't know what Venmo is. I assume it's like PayPal, which I do have.
It is kind of like PayPal, but it's bank to bank transactions. Okay. So we go out to dinner and I don't have any cash and you're like, I'll float you. I'm like, I'll owe you. And then I just send you a Venmo.
Okay.
And it gets sent on, it's like social money trading. Because it's who owns
PayPal
it? PayPal owns Venmo. Thank you, studio audience.
I use regular PayPal, but I've had people ask like, "Hey, can you Venmo me for that thing on Facebook or whatever?" I'm like, "No, I'll PayPal you."
I cannot. I've recently picked up Venmo, but I also use PayPal as a independent business owner because some of my clients pay me through a lot of.
Don't you think it's funny? The Catholic Church doesn't have an app called Papal that you could use to tithe over the internet.
All right. We need to get the developers on the tithe technology. So yes, 100% brilliant idea. You need to sell that to somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, that might be the best thing. All right, wait. I feel sad because I forgot to play. It Came from the Midwest when you were talking about Chicago. So,
oh God, yeah.
Just
roll that bean footage.
All right, we're just gonna roll it because mostly because we love it.
We forgot the graphic.
We talked about it so briefly, but is there anything else? I can't.
Well, we talked about Michigan and their can return.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There you go. So
why didn't I play it? It was just,
we got on a whole tangent about how the Midwest does things differently.
Yeah.
Which they always do. They got to get in there and do their thing.
It is a unique culture, and the best part.
If you haven't lived in the Midwest, everybody, you should do it for a couple of years.
Just once in your life.
Yeah, just go live there for like winter there once. You'll move out. You spend one winter and you'll say, "Fuck this, I'm out."
So, right. So, but the best part about the Midwest, I mean, it's true in the South too. I mean, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, they're all very different cultures, but it's still Southern, like it's umbrella Southern, right? Yeah. The Midwest too, because Michigan is very different from Minnesota. And then you got Wisconsin, which we almost never talk about.
Why don't we talk about Wisconsin?
We'll be good. Well, when we do our cheese episode, I imagine we'll talk about Wisconsin a lot. Yeah. But they're all like Ohio is different from Illinois, and like it's all different, but it's still all Midwest. So
well, they have their umbrella things though, just like the South. Like you can get sweet tea anywhere in the South, but we all do barbecue differently.
Right.
So there's that.
Absolutely, yes. And you drink pop. I tell you, the first time after we moved to Georgia, the first time I said the word pop in Southern company, they literally looked at me like I was speaking another language. They had no idea what I meant.
Them's fighting words. You get out of here.
Yeah, no. I quickly, and I couldn't adopt Coke. Like I lived in Atlanta, but I still couldn't adopt Coke because I don't like Coke. So I never wanted to go somewhere and order a Coke and have them bring me a Coke. Like I want them to bring me a Sprite.
Well, they're supposed to ask you the follow-up question. What kind of Coke you want?
Correct. But I still never felt comfortable with that. So I adopted.
You felt it was too specific.
Yeah, I adopted soda as.
I would, when I'm being, because my wife says sometimes I'm extra, and I'll use like flowery language, which is funny when juxtaposed with my accent, which is partly why I do it, because I like blowing people's minds. It's funny when you have a Southern accent, but also have a grad school level vocabulary. It kind of fucks with people a little bit, right?
Right.
And so sometimes I'll just say things in a way that she's like, "God, you're just being extra." Like the other day, I said parasol instead of umbrella, and I was accused of being extra.
All right. So I didn't plug my computer in, so we're gonna run out of my computer soon.
Oh boy.
But so that said, wrap up our conversation on taxes.
Okay.
Have we said everything we wanted to say about taxes?
I guess that's all got to say about that. I mean, I don't know. I guess, I mean, I could probably find another 6 things, but it's fine.
Yeah, we'll do another tax episode next year or
something.
Have
a question, Matt?
Mailbag.
Oh, yeah, no. Is the mailbag the thing you posted on here? All right, we've got him. I'm on top of it.
Let's hit the mailbag.
Although you did, I would point out that you said things that are extra, which is true.
Did I say things?
But no, Matt did.
I said I was extra.
No, he's got things that are extra. No, but mailbag, he did point out for mailbag, what is May shit?
I can explain. Yeah, you said.
We'll have May.
We have May shit.
Yeah. In May, we got to do May shit. What is May shit? I don't know.
I mean, what's just taxes are like for early spring. It's like it's not something when we talk about when the weather gets nice. We'll have nice weather stuff to talk about. I don't know. Whatever we're doing in May.
We actually have a whole list of things.
We do. We have a long list of things, and the list gets longer all the time. We probably got another 70 episodes already on the books, and then we sprinkle in other things. We move it around a little bit sometimes. So, that's May shit is whatever shit we want to talk about in May. But it's not taxes. That's the important part.
That's the important part. All right. So let's move on to things that are extra. What do you have for us this week?
Well, I'm going to talk about a thing this week that I started talking about last week. And it's going to be very brief because, her computer's about to die.
I still got. Wait, let me see how much. I got 28%. We're good.
We'll be okay for a few more minutes. Anyway, so I want to talk about looky-loos for just a moment because so they're doing some bridge work between my house and my work. They're doing some bridge work, and that means they've closed off a lane of highway on one side or the other. Last week it was my return trip from work, and this week it's the going to side. The thing I hate is when you're in the lane of traffic that has nothing to do with the problem. Okay, say the northbound lane is free and clear, and the southbound lane there might be some bridge work or a wreck or whatever the hell's going on over there. and everybody in the lane you're in has to slow down and put on the brakes and all that shit and look at it. Like why? Why do you care? I want to go home. All I want to do is go home. I don't care what those people are doing. I don't care what the problems are. This is probably when I'm the most, like non-empathetic that I ever am, is when I'm on my way home. I just want to go home, and I don't care what other people's problems are. And if their car, like, it doesn't matter. I don't care if their car is twisted into a cube and the people are decapitated. It still would justify my slowing down to look at it. I don't care.
Well, they will not be any less dead if you.
That's what I'm saying. Whether or not I view it, this is exactly like not a Schrodinger's cat position. Those people are dead whether or not I observe that they are dead. So I would rather just go the fuck home in a timely manner and not slow down and have to look over there and have that to think about. So that's where I'm at. So looky-loos, what I'm saying is looky-loos, mind yourself. You're in the way and you're annoying. And that's things that are extra today.
That is indeed things that are extra today. So we are, if we aren't out of time, we're almost out of battery. So we are going to call it mostly done for today.
We'll give you a minute or two back since we usually steal an extra.
That's true. Usually we go a little long. We will be back next week for our 50th episode.
Woo!
Which actually the subject of the 50th episode is TV. That's what you said we needed to talk about, because apparently
we talk about some TV shows.
Yeah. I watch a lot of TV.
She does. And I used to. Well, I do sometimes, but mine's more up and down. But anyway, growing up, I watched a lot of TV. I was really I watched I was like her when I was a kid, and now I'm amazed that somebody still has time to watch as much TV as she does.
Oh, see, well, we talked about this, and we can save some of this, but here's a teaser. I have two categories of TV. It's TV I watch and TV that's on when I'm doing something else.
Fair enough.
Which is a totally separate category of things. Uh-huh. We will talk about that a lot more next week. So, Bill, why don't you take us away?
I'll do that. Bill Has Opinions is engineered and produced by Laura Lavoie here, who doesn't necessarily share the opinions of Bill. Sometimes she does, and you can tell when. And then, time, but most of the time, I'd say like we're 80% probably.
Usually.
I don't know.
Yeah, give or take, whatever.
But anyway, the people we plug, man, they got no say in this. They're not even paying us. So sorry, Ian, if we offended you, or whatever. Ian loves taxes. Let's just be honest.
Ian loves taxes and vaccinations.
Vaccinations, obviously.
Yay!
Unless he's being ironic. Anyway, the views of our advertisers are not necessarily, the views of us and all that. Anyway, be sure to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Be sure to follow us on the Facebook. Be sure to comment, #OpinionGang. Leave us some mailbag questions or hate mail or whatever you want to do. And also be sure to tune in next Monday for another exciting episode of Bill Has Opinions, where we'll talk about TV, which I know some of you watch.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.
So long.